I'm Carl Mitchell and I'm team manager at West Surrey Racing. Yeah, so funny enough, I was kicked out of sixth form. You know, relatively good grades in GCSEs, got to A-levels and started to realise I was pursuing something I didn't really want to do, and naturally everything sort of dropped off to the point where I didn't get invited back for my second year. And that's when I realised that I could study motorsport at college. So I went and done motorsport engineering at Brooklands College, so fairly local to WSR, and got a week's work placement with WSR. And a week turned into helping out once or twice a week, and then that turned into my first race weekend at Brands Indy in 2013. So that was our first race weekend with the BMW 1 Series. And yeah, ended up doing the full season, and I've been here ever since. I guess when I first started, I didn't really know West Surrey Racing as a whole. I didn't understand the history. There was just a car that I recognised from TV every now and then, and you know, it was the E90 with the eBay branding. And when I went into the workshop, that car was actually just being sold and leaving, and I didn't realise that WSR were moving to the BMW 1 Series. So the first car I ever properly worked on was the first 1 Series shell. It just sort of come back from paint, and I was just really enjoying it, to be honest. It was a nice atmosphere, I was getting hands-on, and I finally felt like I was doing something I wanted to do. So I was just trying to do anything I could to get to that first race weekend, and thankfully Steve, our chief mechanic, who's still our chief mechanic now, he was the one that said, well look, why don't you come and help out? Do 1 day a week and we can utilise you at the race weekends. One thing led to another really, and my skill set's never really been on the mechanical side of the cars. I've always preferred the business element to motorsport, the management side of things. So I spoke to Dick, our team principal, and sort of said, look, this is the direction I want to go. Is there anything I can do to help out in the offices? I started off with a bit of purchasing turned into logistics, ended up doing a bit of sort of team management, and yeah, again, one thing led to another. I got offered the assistant team manager role, and that eventually rolled into being the team manager role that I'm doing now. So for me, I'm quite lucky in the sense that my job role is quite varied, because that's what I prefer anyway. But we are a relatively small team still. Yes, we're achieving great things and we've got a great history, but realistically, we're only 12 people maybe full-time back at the workshop. Naturally, those numbers grow on a race weekend, but it is still literally a little bit of everything. So I've never really let go of any of the job roles that I started with. So I am still doing the purchasing, I'm organising the replacement of damaged parts with our suppliers after event, you know, still managing movements, you know, to and from the circuit once we get here. Obviously a lot of that's pre-planned, but there's always something to deal with on site. There's always a curveball or something that you need to react to. So I guess on race weekends, most of it's planned, and I'm just here sort of reacting to the little bits and pieces that might happen on event, really. But yeah, no, it's varied, and that's the way I like it. Winning the championships, you know, that's why we all come here at the end of the day, is to try and win those championships. And you never forget, each one that you win has a slightly different feeling, and it always feels like it means a lot for many different reasons, if that makes sense. So there's always a standout from each championship where it meant a lot more for a different reason. And I guess if we were to win this year, the reason would be it's my first drivers' championship as a team manager, because I was assistant team manager last time we won a drivers' championship. So yeah, that's why it would mean a lot to me this year. But yeah, you know, again, I think the team deserves it. You know, it's nice. You've got these people that work so hard, day in, day out, you know, dedicate their lives to this championship, and I would just like to see them as a collective have something to celebrate. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, there's always challenges when we've got two drivers that are going for the same championship and quite clearly matched on, you know, pace and championship position. They're often next to each other on the grid. But for me, that's what helps drive us forward. You naturally see each driver start to push that little bit more. You've got two sets of really good data to look at, and you're learning more about the car. And yeah, it makes things challenging, but we need to remember both these people are customers at the end of the day. We pride ourselves on giving them equal opportunity, and realistically the best person will win on track, and that's the best way to do it from our point of view. Yeah, definitely. I'm a great believer of, the quickest cars on track should be the ones that people have gone away, worked really hard over the winter and produced a good car. If those teams that are putting that work in aren't winning, you'd be a little bit concerned, really. So yeah, we've worked really hard over the winter. We have literally looked at all four corners of the car, and it's paying off, I'd like to think. It does feel like we're a bit quicker on track. We feel more competitive this year, so we just need to actually deliver on track now and make it happen. So, at the end of the day, there's things that we can control, there's things that we can't. We don't pick the regulations, so that's going to be what it's going to be. We've just tried to produce a car that is going to be well balanced, and hopefully perform under any circumstance. I think the new qualifying's great. I think the new hybrid system's great. The racing's more exciting this year. I've got to be honest that there were times, in previous seasons where I'd sit back on the pit wall and, I'd be bored. And I love watching the racing. I really enjoy it. That hasn't been lost on me yet. So to be able to stand on the pit wall now and actually be really sort of, how do I say it? I'm enjoying watching the racing outside of what our three cars are doing, if that makes sense. So no, I think the regulations have really helped with that. And I'd like to think that that's going to be something that drives the championship forward now, into its, future seasons, if you like, and gets more people interested. Yeah, it's very difficult. Obviously, first and foremost, you got to concentrate on what you're doing. At the end of the day, you can watch everyone else, but you need to make sure you're doing things right yourself first before you start looking at what everyone else is doing. Yes, we do keep an eye on the other teams. I think ultimately, as much as, yes, there's very talented drivers on the grid, you do tend to find the same names always end up being there towards the end of the season. So we do keep a close eye on those who we believe are our main championship competitors. But I think as long as you focus on what you're doing and trying to do everything you can to your best of your ability, naturally you should end up being where you need to be at the end of the season. Definitely. At the end of the day, like I said, we come here to win championships. We're not here necessarily just for race wins or to make up any numbers, that's for sure. And I think the aim is to make sure you have as many of your drivers there in the run-in at Brands GP at the end of the season. You need to be in the run-in to have any chance, whatsoever. So I think the main goal is make sure you go to Brands with a chance of winning the championship. And as we know, anything can happen. And from that point, you just got to produce a reliable car and everything else will be sorted on track.